I am Isabella of France, born in 1295, the daughter of King Philip IV of France and Queen Joan of Navarre. My lineage was as noble as the air I breathed. I was destined for greatness and a life shaped by the crown. At the tender age of 12, I was wedded to Edward II, King of England, in 1308. My marriage was not merely a union of two souls, but a pact between two kingdoms, meant to solidify peace and alliance between England and France. Little did I know, this union would thrust me into a storm of political intrigue, betrayal, and personal strife. Edward, my husband, was a complex man, charming yet weak, affectionate yet aloof. Our marriage was fraught from the very beginning. Edward's affections lay elsewhere, not with me but with his favourite, Piers Gaveston, a man whose influence over the king was both undeniable and scandalous. As a queen, I bore the humiliation silently, knowing my duty to England outweighed my personal sorrow. Yet, I could not help but feel the sting of neglect and the shame of being overshadowed by a mere courtier. My role as queen was more than ceremonial. I became a diplomat, mediating between my husband and his fractious barons. Gaveston's unchecked power incited the nobility's wrath, and they forced Edward to exile his favourite several times. But Edward, ever loyal to Gaveston, always found a way to bring him back. In 1312, the barons' patience wore thin, and Gaveston was executed. Though I found no joy in his death, I hoped it would bring stability to the realm and perhaps a chance for Edward and me to rebuild our bond. Yet, Edward's reign was plagued by poor governance and disastrous military campaigns. His defeat at the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314 against Robert the Bruce of Scotland was a national humiliation. The English barons grew restless, and Edward turned to another favourite, Hugh Despenser the Younger, whose greed and cruelty made Gaveston seem a saint. The Despensers' rise to power further alienated the nobility and deepened my despair. Despite the chaos, I fulfilled my duty as queen. I bore Edward 4 children, securing the royal lineage. Among them was my beloved son, Edward, who would later become Edward III. My maternal instinct became my driving force. I was determined to secure a better future for him and the kingdom. In 1325, my life took a dramatic turn. Edward sent me to France to negotiate a treaty with my brother, King Charles IV. There, I found not only refuge but also an ally in Roger Mortimer, a disenchanted English noble who had fled Edward's tyranny. Mortimer and I shared a common goal, to overthrow Edward and the Despensers. Our alliance quickly turned into a passionate love affair, giving me the strength to act decisively. In 1326, Mortimer and I raised an army in France and invaded England. The discontented barons and the common people rallied to our cause. Edward was captured, and the hated Despensers were executed. For the first time, I felt the weight of my power as queen regnant. I had dethroned a king, my husband, and secured the future for my son, Edward III, who was crowned in 1327. But power is a double-edged sword. Mortimer and I ruled in my son's name, but our authority was resented. By 1330, Edward III, now a young man, took control of his throne, arresting Mortimer and executing him for treason. I was spared but relegated to a quieter life, a shadow of my former self. Looking back, my life was one of triumphs and tragedies, resilience and rebellion. I was a queen who challenged the constraints of her time, a mother who fought for her child, and a woman who dared to seize her destiny. My story, though steeped in turmoil, is one of unyielding strength. Even now, as I reflect on my journey, I take solace in the legacy I left behind, a son who became a great king and a story that will endure through the annals of history.